Hello guys, in this video let's see in detail about ascites. Ascites, it is the collection of fluid in the peritoneal cavity. It is the earliest complication of portal hypertension. Okay guys, let's now see about the pathophysiology involved in ascites. Ascites in patient with cirrhosis is the result of portal hypertension and renal salt and water retention. Portal hypertension signifies the elevation of pressure within the portal vein. This development of cirrhosis is also associated with increased systemic circulating levels of nitric oxide as well as increased level of vascular endothelial growth factor and tumor necrosis factor, which eventually leads to splanchnic vasodilatation. This vasodilatation leads to pooling of blood and a decrease in effective circulating volume, which is perceived by kidney as hypovolemia. To correct this hypovolemia, kidney stimulates renin-angiotensin system, which leads to increased sodium and water retention, which finally leads to increased intravascular volume. This fluid leaks into the peritoneal cavity via hepatic veins and sinusoids, which results in ascites. Then coming to SAG. What is SAG? Serum ascitic fluid albumin gradient, which is used to determine the cause of ascites. SAG can be calculated by subtracting serum ascitic fluid albumin from serum albumin. If SAG is less than 1.1 gram per deciliter, this low gradient indicates the cause of ascites is not associated with portal hypertension. If SAG is greater than 1.1 gram per deciliter, it strongly indicates portal hypertension. This SAG is useful in understanding and evaluation of ascites. This SAG may be classified into high SAG and low SAG ascites. This high SAG ascites is again subclassified into low protein and high protein ascites. In low protein ascites, the protein value is less than 2.5 gram per deciliter, of which the causes are cirrhosis, late bud Chiari syndrome, massive liver metastasis. In high protein ascites, of which the protein value is greater than 2.5 gram per deciliter, the causes are heart failure, constrictive pericarditis, early bud Chiari syndrome and sinusoidal obstruction syndrome. Then coming to low SAG ascites, it may be caused due to increased ascitic fluid albumin or decreased serum albumin. Increased ascitic fluid albumin is seen in peritoneal carcinomatosis, peritoneal tuberculosis and peritonitis. Decreased serum albumin is seen in nephrotic syndrome. Then coming to the diagnosis of ascites, it can be done through ultrasound. Minimum 100 ml of ascitic fluid can be detected. Clinically, shifting dullness can be elicited in patients with ascites, for which ascitic fluid should be above 500 ml. Fluid thrill can be elicited in patients with ascites, for which the ascitic fluid should be above 1000 ml. Neck veins are seen in patients with ascites whose underlying cause is constrictive pericarditis. For performing shifting dullness, with the patient in supine position, percuss from the midline out to the flanks. Note any change from resonant to dull, along with the areas of dullness and resonance. Keep your finger on the site of dullness in the flank and ask the patient to turn on his opposite side. Pause for 10 seconds to allow any ascites to gravitate, then percuss again. If the area of dullness is now resonant, shifting dullness is present, indicating ascites. For fluid thrill, if the abdomen is tensely distended and you are not certain whether ascites is present, feel for a fluid thrill. Place the palm of your left hand flat against the left side of the patient's abdomen and flick a finger of your right hand against the right side of the abdomen. If you feel a ripple against your left hand, ask the patient to place the edge of his hand on the midline of the abdomen. This prevents the transmission of impulse via the skin. If you still feel a ripple against Once the presence of ascites has been confirmed, the etiology of the ascites is best determined by paracentesis. Paracentesis is a bedside procedure in which a needle or small catheter is passed transcutaneously to extract ascitic fluid from the peritoneum. The left lower quadrant is preferred because of the greater depth of ascites and thinner abdominal wall. Paracentesis is a safe procedure even in patients with coagulopathy. Complications including abdominal wall hematomas, hypotension, hepatorenal syndrome and infection are infrequent. Once the ascitic fluid has been extracted, its gross appearance should be examined. Turbid fluid can result from infection or tumor cells within the fluid. White milky fluid indicates the presence of triglycerides, which is the hallmark of chylous ascites. Dark brown fluid can reflect a high bilirubin concentration and indicates biliary tract perforation. Black fluid may indicate the presence of pancreatic necrosis or metastatic melanoma. The further analysis of ascitic fluid involves, if the infection is suspected, then gram stain and culture can be done with inoculation of fluid into blood culture bottles at the patient's bedside to maximize the yield. If the protein value of the ascitic fluid is greater than 1 gram per deciliter and glucose value less than 50 mg per deciliter, it may be mostly perforation peritonitis. The amylase value greater than 2000 units per liter in ascitic fluid indicates acute pancreatitis. The presence of carcinoembryonic antigen indicates malignant ascites. In approaching a patient with ascites, if the ascitic fluid culture is positive and the polymorphonuclear count is greater than 250 cells per microliter, then the patient is having spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. If the ascitic fluid culture is positive for a single organism and the polymorphonuclear cells is less than 250 cells per microliter, then the patient is having monomicrobial non-neutrocytic bacterioascites. If there is no growth on culture and the polymorphonuclear cells is greater than 250 cells per microliter, then the patient is having culture negative neutrocytic ascites. If there is polymicrobial growth on culture with polymorphonuclear cells greater than 250 cells per microliter and with apparent surgical cause, then the patient is having secondary bacterial peritonitis. If the polymorphonuclear cells is less than 250 cells per microliter with polymicrobial culture, then the patient is having polymicrobial bacterioascites. Then coming to the management of ascites. The initial treatment of cirrhotic ascites is restriction of sodium intake. When sodium restriction alone is inadequate to control ascites, oral diuretics, typically the combination of spironolactone and furosemide, are used. Spironolactone is an aldosterone antagonist that inhibits sodium resorption in the distal convoluted tubule of the kidney. Furosemide is a loop diuretic that is generally combined with spironolactone in the ratio of 40:100. What is refractory ascites? Refractory cirrhotic ascites is defined by the persistence of ascites despite sodium restriction and maximal diuretic use. Refractory ascites can be managed by serial large volume paracentesis or transjugular intrahepatic peritoneal shunt (TIPS), a radiologically placed portosystemic shunt to decompress the hepatic sinusoids. Spontaneous bacterial peritonitis is a common and potentially lethal complication of cirrhotic ascites. Treatment of spontaneous bacterial peritonitis with an antibiotic such as intravenous cefotaxime is effective against gram-negative and gram-positive aerobes. 5 days of treatment are sufficient if the patient improves clinically. Cirrhotic patient with a history of spontaneous bacterial peritonitis and ascitic fluid total protein concentration less than 1 gram per deciliter or active gastrointestinal bleeding should receive prophylactic antibiotics to prevent spontaneous bacterial peritonitis. Oral norfloxacin with a dose of 400 mg is commonly used. Thank you guys. Hope you have understood about ascites. If you have any doubts or suggestion, please comment in the comment section below, and you can make your friends learn by sharing this video to them.